From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Cronkite students were honored with more than 40 nominations in the Regional Society of Professional Journalists Competition. We were winners in 21 categories. Those Mark of Excellence winners will go on to compete in the Nationals. Here's a sample of our winning entries.
This year's active hurricane season has left both coasts of the country still reeling from record storms. It's been just over a month since Hurricane Florence, yet cleanup continues, with some helping hands coming all the way from Arizona. Cronkite News Washington Bureau reporter Lillian Donahue traveled to one of the hardest hit areas by the hurricane. Morehead City is located 2 hours northeast of Wilmington, along the North Carolina coast.
More than a month after Hurricane Florence crashed into the Carolina coast, there are still a dozen shelters open and hundreds of people whose lives have been completely uprooted.
And I told my baby Lucky, I said, I think we got about 15 minutes. We're going to be sitting in the water.
Trees uprooted, homes destroyed, all the belongings are scattered all over everywhere.
I'm upset, to see it all ruined like this.
They just lose it. It's just all gone.
It's a sleepy Saturday in Morehead City, North Carolina, a far cry from just a month before when one of the strongest storms in recent years thrashed the coast. The hurricane may be long gone, but its aftermath lives on as people remain displaced in the state.
You ready to go in if you want to go in?
Like Wade and Mary Rochford, the couple and their autistic adult twins cannot return to a mold-saturated home after it completely flooded during the storm.
Yeah, there's a lot of memories in here for just the 10 years we lived here. It's heartbreak on there because I've had a lot of good memories in here, and I've had a few that weren't so good, but that's just being a family,
And they're not alone.
It's not just this piece of land right here that got this damage. It's the circles that just radiate out to impact so many people.
For more than 2.5 weeks, longtime Arizona Red Cross volunteer Jean Curry has been at a local shelter where the Rochfords are staying, along with more than 30 other survivors and their pets.
Folks had a home, and now they don't. Folks had belongings, and now they don't. You have a good day, Susan.
Yes. She's helping residents transition out of the shelter and back to their lives. Like Willie, who was homeless when the storm hit. This video shows the moment he was airlifted off a van by the U.S. Coast Guard as floodwaters rose.
And he told me, to give your chihuahua to him, and I will put you in that basket. And he did. Wonderful man. Picked me up like a 5-pound sack of potatoes. The good Lord sent me a miracle Monday morning of that day.
Those staying at the shelter range from whole families to the homeless. It was supposed to shut down in early October, but few resources in the area left those impacted in the community with nowhere else to go.
Communities have been decimated. A lot of the resources that you generally find in an area are just not here.
Neighborhoods like this one line the North Carolina coast. As debris is beginning to build up along the streets, so is the cost of the storm. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Florence has already cost North Carolina alone $383 million.
There's no deadline. We're here to help, we're here to support. So, we're here until further notice.
We'll see you sometime.
But for Curry, it's time for her to return home to Phoenix, while survivors like Willie and the Rochford family are still facing an uncertain future.
I'm going to go back to normal. I'm going to go back to my daily activities, and yet I will still think about the people that are here.
The same thing every day, just keep moving forward, keep swimming.
Despite it all, those who had to make this shelter home agree that along with its destructive winds and rain, Florence also brought along with it a rare sense of community.
I have been blessed to have been surrounded and met by wonderful people. And without them, we would all be in a way worse situation than we are right now.
It was just a time to get together and meet your neighbors again. When do you get to do that as adults? Really?
Cell Block 6.
Yes.
In Morehead City, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
According to FEMA, more than 28,000 homeowners in North Carolina applied for federal assistance in the month following the hurricane.
Voters are still in lines as the polls come to a close on election night 2018. They'll get their chance to make their voices heard as a history-making midterm election comes to a close.
At stake tonight in Arizona, one of the most closely watched races in the nation, Republican Martha McSally faces off against Democrat Kyrsten Sinema to become Arizona's first female U.S. senator.
Leadership of our state in the balance. Governor Doug Ducey is seeking a second term, while Democrat David Garcia and Green Party candidate Angel Torres are hoping for an upset.
And seats for all of Arizona's congressional districts are also at play. Districts 2 and 9 will have brand new representation, while incumbents hope to keep their current seats. Good evening and welcome to this special election edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Bryce Newberry.
And I'm Tanaya Williamson. Thank you for joining us.
We have team coverage tonight from right here in the Valley to our nation's capital. Our team of reporters is tracking results as they come in while monitoring polls, problems, and positions.
We begin our team coverage with Gabriela Becerra, who's live in Scottsdale at the Republican Watch Party. What's going on there, Gabriela?
Yes, I'm here at the Republican Watch Party in Scottsdale, and the night is just getting started, but as you can see behind me, there's already a lot of energy going on in this room. We've been hearing the crowd erupt in cheers as races from across the country have been being called, and you know the nation has a lot of eyes on our races here in Arizona as well, including the U.S. Senate race between Martha McSally and Kyrsten Sinema. It's a really close race, and a lot of people here are saying that, you know, it's the one that they're watching. We're going to be talking to a lot of Republican leaders from across the state, and we'll be coming to you with updates throughout the night. At the Republican Watch Party in Scottsdale, I'm Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
Thank you, Gabriela. Now we want to check in at the Democratic Watch Party in downtown Phoenix. Cronkite News reporter Jordan Daphnis is live there now. Jordan?
The Democratic Watch Party is at the Renaissance Hotel, and doors opened just about an hour ago, and people have been filing in since. I spoke with a woman who told me that when she was in line, it wrapped all the way around the building, so a lot of support gathering here tonight. I spoke with another man who said the mood among people here is very hopeful, and at the very least, he thinks this election will be interesting. In downtown Phoenix, Jordan Daphnis, Cronkite News.
Right now, Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes is speaking live. We're going to listen in.
Right, we had 200%, 300%, and 400% increases in calls to our call center. Folks asking, where can I vote? How can I get my voter registration fixed, right? And we made those numbers available via social media, radio, and television. We got out there, we got in front of it, we helped people understand that there was an election coming, voter registration deadlines and stuff, and there were a lot of campaigns that did that as well. I think everybody who was interested in politics and elections worked together, and so there's a lot of reasons I think that people will tout, but we facilitated the biggest midterm in the history of Maricopa County, and I'm super proud of that.
We've got to get together, we've got to come together as a party to make sure that we can make that happen.
That's right, we're at the Democratic Watch Party, and I just wanted to mention, too, that CNN just showed that Kyrsten Sinema was ahead by just over 12,000 votes, and the mood here, everyone cheered, and it was very uplifted here. People were excited. But now back to Kathy Hoffman, who is running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Now, she told me that she wanted to run for office well before even the Red for Ed movement. Tell me about that.
I started my campaign over a year and a half ago when I watched the confirmation hearing for Betsy DeVos, and that's when I realized that we must have more educators running for office if we want to see any kind of benefit for our schools.
How do the U.S. elections affect not only people here in the States, but people from other countries like Lebanon?
Well, Edgardo, the midterm elections usually are not regarded as global events, but this year it's too much different. The results of those elections are crucially and enormously important for the U.S. as well as for the other countries.
It is extremely important for us not just to look at the numbers and the votes that are coming in, but also look at
public perception and how that is directly impacting the votes that are going on right now.
Yes, I'm here with David Schweikert. He is running for re-election for District 6. Can you tell me what are some of the issues that you want to focus on once if you're re-elected?
Look, I'm blessed to be on the Ways and Means Committee. So we have jurisdiction on everything from tax to trade to Medicare, Social Security. So your plate is quite full. And the reality with 74 million baby boomers moving into retirement, we have a lot of retirement security type of issues, which are complicated and stunning amounts of money that we really need to step up and work on.
Definitely a lot I am looking at here in our Cronkite News Social Media Center. In fact, Garrett Archer has been the most popular as we track the midterm elections here on social media. He's the senior analyst for the Secretary of State's office, and he's been keeping tabs on voter turnout as the elections result come in as we speak. But I want to take you right now to Adrian Fontes. This was him on Twitter about 3 o'clock where he said 691,000 ballots have gone through the Central Court so far this election, and we have begun to see those results come out at the 8 o'clock hours.
Because Doug Ducey, he is the projected winner of the governor's race, and he just basically gave what kind of appeared to be a victory speech almost. And just before that, when they were looking at Fox News over there, they were seeing that Martha McSally was ahead by just a smidge, and that brought up a big cheer as well.
You just won the race. Tell me about what you're feeling right now.
I'm feeling great right now. My wife and I worked incredibly hard with my campaign team. We fought for every single vote. We went hard at every vote. Democrat, Independent, and Republican. And the overwhelming win we got tonight shows that each of those folks responded. We got an overwhelming number of Republican votes here tonight. So I'm feeling really good. Our message, which is I'm going to work in a bipartisan way, a results-focused leader. That's what I did as mayor. People can trust me. That was our message, and obviously it resonated very well with the voters tonight.
This concludes our live election coverage here on Cronkite News. For continuing up-to-date coverage, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
We now turn to our partners at Arizona Horizon, who will continue to monitor election results as they come in on Channel 8.1.
I'm not a terribly religious person, but I think when you're on the Colorado River, there's a sense of history and majesty that somehow sort of touches your soul.
And I became deeply connected to it. It was the most beautiful place that I'd ever been. This magnificent river with these huge rapids, a powerful river through this incredible canyon.
It's my lifeblood. A lot of me is the Colorado River. The molecules of my body have been brought there because of the river.
The Glen Canyon Dam was actually thought about in the early 40s.
It was a political compromise that was made by probably a dozen people sitting in a room.
There was a big debate about where to put the dam. The Bureau of Reclamation was a very powerful organization, and the decisions came down to putting a dam on the Yampa River, which would have destroyed Dinosaur National Monument that a lot of people had seen and revered, versus putting a dam on Glen Canyon, a place that almost nobody had seen. This decision was pretty easy then. We're going to put it on a place we didn't know about.
To me, the biggest cost is you flooded Glen Canyon itself, which was one of the most magnificent parts of the Colorado River Plateau.
Now, there's no question, if such a dam had been proposed now, it wouldn't make it. Glen Canyon would have been a national park in its own right. Dams are obviously bad, aren't they? They destroy natural ecosystems. Well, unfortunately, it's been 54 years now since the dam was built, and a lot of the natural components of the ecosystem are adjusted to the dam in one way or another.
When I started running the river, it was 1973, and it had only been 10 years since Glen Canyon Dam had been completed. What I saw was much more how the river looked before the dam was there.
Before, it was this wild, raging animal of a river. That river in flood can carry a pound of mud in a quart of water. There's a lot of complexity, the way the ecosystem is adjusted to the dam operation over a 54-year period of time now. It cooled the water temperature, made the water clear, and it stopped flooding. Each of those has had impacts on how the river ecosystem works.
Over several decades, I watched the vegetative changes along the banks of the Colorado River. I watched the impacts of Glen Canyon Dam water releases on the vegetation and the animals.
Silt is backing up behind the reservoir. The rate of siltation is a subject of debate.
Over the next 100 years, the sediment load in the Lake Powell Basin may rise to the point where it begins to influence water management issues.
That's going to be something that in the future, we're talking a couple, 3 decades, that your generation is going to have to deal with, is what do we do about all that mud that's building up behind the dam? What are we going to do?
Is the dam good or bad? We can't answer that question.
Dams are simply the dinosaurs of the water world. They're going to be extinct. I've said repeatedly that we should tear down Glen Canyon Dam.
There's an economic advantage for the dam being in place that is poorly recognized, as idealistic as we all are. We don't like dams, blah, blah, blah.
It's certainly one of our largest employers is the dam itself. Losing those jobs would impact us a bit economically, but Page relies on tourism nowadays.
Lake Powell would no longer have the great attraction that it presently does. Beautiful blue waters and orange-colored cliffs and giant reservoir for water skiers and houseboaters. Really popular for a lot of people.
If you take the dam out, do you think that the river and the canyons are going to return to what they were before? Absolutely not. It can't happen. We've put that footprint there forever. It is forever impacted.
The reality is you can get rid of it, and we really should.
I don't think that the expense and difficulty of pulling that big old hunk of concrete out of there should be wasting that much money.
So not a 5-year plan for dismantling the dam, but a 100-year plan for what are we going to do and how are we going to get there. Let's think about it together and come up with good solutions.
Surrounding yourself with others going through the same hardships as you are can really lift you up. Sammy Giebers visited a weekly Phoenix art class that brings together a group of people dealing with the same conditions.
Hey, Betty.
What's on your mind today?
We have primary colors that you know very well about.
For Dora Hernandez.
So let's start with the yellow and we'll add some red.
It's getting paintbrushes in the hands of her students.
So funny to call them students because they're usually much older than I am. I've learned a lot from you, Anna Banana.
But she's not always the teacher.
What I've learned from Betty is you focus on something and you do it and do it and do it.
I just enjoy doing it.
From Rolly, I've learned attitude. Bill is really consistent. It's Vicky, very joyful, very good.
Focus for the class with art in mind isn't the painting, but the camaraderie.
You still love me?
And sometimes the focus,
and of course,
is on recalling a name.
I can't remember.
Betty.
Betty! She's extraordinary.
The class is for those dealing with dementia or brain injuries.
It helps when you share something you have in common with everybody else.
And just across the hall,
oh, there they go again,
is another type of support.
Laughing next door like they're having more fun than we are.
With coffee and donuts, the artist's loved ones share their own stories.
I think like it for the same reason they do. We're all caregivers of somebody who has Alzheimer's, so sharing the same experience because we're in the same boat is a good thing for us.
Always do your own thing.
And they do work on their own paintings. But you can't say they're on their own.
Rolly, he's over the top.
What'd you call me?
Over the top.
Stop your gambling.
And at the end of the class, what's on everyone's mind?
Good night, Irene.
It's whatever Rolly is singing. In Phoenix, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
This class began as a partnership with Banner Alzheimer's Institute. The group meets weekly at the Phoenix Center for the Arts.
Brothers don't always get along, but there's a set of brothers at Brophy College Prep facing a shared challenge unlike most others.
I caught up with the Arquette-Singer brothers to learn how they lean on each other in their face of extraordinary difficulty. Brophy's Garrett and Gavin Arquette-Singer grew up 2 years apart.
We're brothers, man, so we fight a lot. It's hard sometimes, but I love that kid.
It's an unbreakable bond. The two have always been close, so much so that Gavin followed his older brother onto the Brophy football team.
I've just developed a love for the game since I scored my first touchdown. I remember the feeling. I started crying. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
His tears of childhood joy would turn to tears of misery in August. A torn ACL in his left knee ended his senior season before it ever really started, preventing him from ever scoring another high school touchdown.
As soon as I found out the information, I started crying. I couldn't hold it back. I thought my whole future with football was done with. But I tried to stay positive after that moment. My family was helping me out.
While Garrett's parents do everything they can for him, it's the strength of a brotherhood that makes it so Gavin can help Garrett through the darkness of a season-ending injury.
They've always looked out for one another. The older-younger brother relationship's always kind of has been there. And so wherever Garrett is gone, Gavin typically wants to go as a younger brother.
28 days later, Gavin would follow Garrett into his brother's nightmare. A torn ACL in Gavin's right knee effectively ended his sophomore campaign.
My brother, he's there for me, and he's going to help me get to where he's at right now and even stronger. And me and him are going to have that same recovery. But my parents and my brother have always been here for me, which really does mean a lot to me.
Yeah, I told them both that if I could take both of their knees from them and put them on mine, I would.
As much as Wendy and Lou wish they could relieve their son's pain, they can't. They couldn't do so during surgery, and they can't do so during the rehab process here at Banner Physical Therapy. However, if anything good is to come of this devastating situation, it'll be a strengthened relationship.
We already have a strong bond, but this is just going to bring us even more close, and something you can't take away from me and my brother.
I love him. Like I said, he's a big part of my life.
The two have played football their entire lives. Football is in their blood, it's in their hearts. And despite an early ending to what might be considered his most important season yet, Garrett is more than just a football player. And he knows a torn ACL doesn't mean a torn future.
I'm not so much focused on football and what my future holds. I still love football and I want to pursue it as far as I can, but I know that if it doesn't work out for me, I still have other routes to take that will lead to success in the future.
Garrett does have an offer to play college football from the University of Laverne. With that said, Gavin is in a completely different situation. Despite missing his freshman year with a broken foot and now his sophomore season with a torn ACL, Gavin knows he still has 2 seasons to earn a college scholarship.
Recovery's coming soon.
And as long as that rings true, Gavin isn't done lacing up his cleats.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm trying to make it to play college football. It's always been a dream of mine since I was a baby. I just want to really move on, see how far I can make it.
While Garrett turns his eyes to college, Gavin is on his way getting back on the field for his junior year, where he plans to make up for lost time in pursuit of that elusive college scholarship.
A few weeks back, the ASU women's basketball team went on a journey to Window Rock. Our Anthony Totri followed the team throughout their trip to capture just what the Sun Devils event meant.
We have not played our best basketball yet, have we? No. We've missed shots we normally make. We've taken too many possessions off. Let's go. Yeah? Let's go. Rebound! And then Diego. 1, 2, 3. Rebound!
Yego translates to go for it. All weekend the Sun Devils went for it, but the team's Yego would extend far beyond a game they would end up losing to Baylor 65-59. It's Friday, 2 days before a nationally televised showdown on the Navajo Reservation with the number 4 team in the country. The team boards buses for a 5-hour trek to Window Rock, the Navajo Nation capital. The Sun Devils stay at a hotel just 10 minutes from a local high school that will host its first Division I college basketball game in its gleaming 6,500-seat gymnasium.
This community is coming to root for us, and so let's do this for them.
After Friday's late-night arrival, ASU receives a warm welcome at their shoot-around Saturday. But it's when the team steps off the court that they draw an outpouring of appreciation from the fans.
Forks out. Where's your forks? Come on. There you go.
Lines wrap around the hallways for an autograph session that lasts for an hour, only ending when the final person makes their way to the front.
Just hearing the stories that we've heard today and weeks before this, it's just like really puts like a perspective, you know, a different kind of outlook on things, and just, you know, learning about their history, I'm like, wow.
Put your hand down.
After time with the fans, the Sun Devils take an exploration around Window Rock, including the famous rock itself, and make a visit to a Veterans Memorial ahead of Sunday's Veterans Day game. Throughout their trip, the Sun Devils encounter a community where basketball is everything.
The opportunities are there, and hopefully with just the intensity and the passion of the game, you know, they get a sense for, okay, if I work really hard, you know, I can have anything I want, or I can get what I want.
Sunday, the day of the game. But for the Sun Devils, their aspirations to inspire would not so much be determined by the team's loss to Baylor, but rather the heart on display.
Just the character that we play with, who we are, I thought that shined through today, and I just said that's going to inspire the 80,000 kids on the reservation, you know, even more than if we win.
But the Sun Devils weren't the only ones inspiring. While ASU brought with it lessons of boundless opportunity, the Sun Devils left with a lesson of their own, to go for it, or as they say on the res, Yago. In Window Rock, Anthony Totri, Cronkite News.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For top stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.